Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the VSI Podcast on 16 Days of Activism Against Gender Based Violence. My name is Catherine Pule, and today on the show to help unpack a number of challenges associated with GBV is a man. Which is quite interesting for me as a female, of course, with reference to issues centered around GBV, if you ask me. Hello, sir. It's a pleasure to have you on the show. And could you please introduce yourself?
Many thanks for having me. First of all, I have to mention that it's always a privilege to be in such spaces where we talk about critical issues that really help out in physical development. My name is Chisha Chola. I am the executive director of CAPFA. CAPFA entirely means creating a place for all. It's an organization that is based in Zambia as a secretariat, but we have members from Southern Africa. We have members from Eswatini, Zimbabwe. We have members from South Africa. We have members in Namibia. We have members in Malawi as well. So basically, Southern Africa, and we're yet to grow our membership throughout the entire Africa and throughout the world, hopefully, as we are creating a place for all. And we believe in fostering inclusion in sustainable development, especially inclusive participation, especially in that area. I do entertainment as well. I'm an entertainer. I'm also a media practitioner. I am a policy analyst, governance analyst as well, from the lead to engagement that I do, and the social worker by profession. I cannot forget that.
GBV happens in many different forms, regardless of the form that GBV takes. It is a human rights abuse, a public health challenge, and a barrier to civic, social, political, and economic participation and development. What's the an easier definition of GBV and its forms?
Thank you so much for that question. So GBV simply means it is any violence that is definitely caused or done on someone based on their gender or because of their particular gender. So GBV has got so many forms. There is sexual gender-based violence, there is economical gender-based violence, physical gender-based violence, emotional, which affects the mental aspect of it. So in a nutshell, if you're going to look at sexual gender-based violence, this happens sexually. This is obviously as straightforward as it is. Doing something or causing violence towards particular someone because of you trying to get something sexually when they're not wanting to do it. All right, that's on the sexual aspect. Economical gender-based violence is violence that is caused, of course, economically, not giving someone money or taking care of someone economically, even though you are actually able to. So that affects their economical well-being in totality. And of course, that really enhances or worsens, per se, gender-based violence. If you're going to look at physical, this is straightforward, and this is the most common gender-based violence when it comes to women. The physical aspect is where you are beaten and you've got scars, you've got dents because you have been beaten and you have been a victim or a survivor of gender-based violence. Emotional, mental, and for this one, the men are the ones that suffer the most. The men are the ones that suffer the most. If you're going to really look at emotional gender-based violence, I'll give an example. Women love, because they say because women cannot fight back physically, they love, not everyone, but some women, they love to definitely take over or defeat you in the emotional aspect, which is the mental aspect. But even women do suffer from it. So using words that would hurt someone emotionally, using words that would demean someone, or just insulting them not saying things that are not to their will or not something that they would want to listen to, that is emotional and mental gender-based violence. So that in all different forms, and we need to raise awareness to such or with such cases per se, because they need to understand really what is going on, what are its forms. All right, as long as you take someone unwillingly, even harassment is actually a part of gender-based violence. So gender-based violence is like a whole lot of this particular cluster, which obviously has got different sub or nitty-gritties per se of what it adds up to gender-based violence. So that's what I would explain from my perspective of understanding it, my perspective of learning from different particular learning institutions and knowledge and interactions that I've had.
According to the United Nations, Zambia has one of the world's highest rates of intimate partner violence in the world, with almost half of all women having experienced physical violence from the age of 15. And with every story of GBV we listen to, we tend to realize how complex and layered GBV is, and just how much there is to unpack. And so, what do you think should be done to scale up awareness on breaking the silence on GBV?
That's a very interesting question, actually. So more awareness needs to be done. Well, there's need for more sensitization about gender-based violence for people to understand it in totality. You might find actually that there are a few people that understand what gender-based violence is. There are a few people that even know what GBV is. And this is why it's good that we have the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence that talks and raises awareness about what GBV is, and the nitty-gritties of GBV, its forms of GBV, how people can get help, what they need to do, all that stuff. It's very critical for us to look at it in this particular perspective. If you're going to look at it from the government, what government would do is that more professionals need to come in to handle gender-based violence. How many apart from the trainings that they get about GBV, how many social workers who are trained to look at victims, to help the victims come out through that phase, are in these particular positions? For example, at the police station, you know what I'm saying, where they would want help at the health facilities. How many social workers who are trained are in those particular positions? That's the first step. We need to identify professionals who are trained in gender-based violence to understand and to create this environment of helping the people and the victims that have gone through GBV. So that needs to be done. Recruitment of more health professionals. We need to also have more shelters for the GBV victims. We need to have more shelters and more places for them, for their safety. All right. Also, I know that the men, it's a challenge for them to have to come out and be able to speak about this, to be able to identify that this is actually gender-based violence and they need to speak out. More funding and more support towards the men need to be pumped in. That is the only way. Remember, even as women were coming out, it's because they had the support, they had the emotional handling, the emotional right hand or backhand per se to push them to come out and be, what's that word I'm looking for? Be the sacrificial lamp. You know what I'm saying? So more funding needs to come out and be able to support the men to come out about their lives. There was a post that I read and which I actually feel is true because of the interactions I've had with a lot of people. Almost every man's first sexual encounter is rape, which is abuse, which is gender-based violence. And because that happened way back, some of them have carried it on to being, having all this traumatic childhood experience and carrying it on forward to adulthood, which becomes a problem even as they go on. And it affects their life, it affects mostly the people that they interact with. And you find that people actually who rape these men are actually the women. Some are actually the men. Through the interactions that we've had, we get to understand what they have gone through. All right. So it is my plea that there should be more support, more funding towards men coming out. Speak about your emotional gender-based violence. Speak about your physical. Speak about your economical, sexual. Speak about it. Understand that when you speak, when you talk about such things, it definitely creates an environment for more people to raise awareness. And together, if we stand, we sort out that particular issue. It is very categorical, very critical for us to speak it out like that.
What are your last words on the topic and word of encouragement to GBV victims, survivors, and advocates?
Let's open up and break the silence. I think that those will be my last words. Let's open up and break the silence. Let's speak about these things, because it is through the way raising awareness and being able to implement us reducing the different cases of gender-based violence is what will help us live in a safe society, in a safe community, and together as a whole. Remember, we all have, I'm a Christian, so I'll talk about that biblically. We all have roles in our lives. We all live on earth to coexist. So we need to coexist even towards such vices. We need to fight together to understand that if we stand together in unity, then we are defeating this particular problem of gender-based violence. Open up and break the silence. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. I want to appreciate you as well for having me here. And I hope that you will have me more to speak about such things that are pertinent to national development, are pertinent to the well-being of a lot of people, a lot of young people, a lot of women, young men, and people living with disabilities. It is very, very categorical for us to talk about it. So let's open up, speak about it, ensure that the implementation of the Anti-GBV Act, the implementation of the different policies that protect us, that create a safe world, that creates a place for us all, regardless of who we are, is definitely enhanced and fostered. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure, and please feel free to interact with me on my socials. My socials is Chisha Chola on LinkedIn and on Facebook. And you can follow our Facebook pages, that is the organizational Facebook page, Creating a Place for All, or CAPFA, CAPFA. Then you'll definitely find our handles, and let's interact more. And of course, let's fight GBV together.
All right, it's time for us to say our goodbyes, and I must make mention that we appreciate you for coming through, Mr. Chola, and we definitely look forward to having you more on our VSI podcast. All right, so I heard Mr. Chisha Chola, the Executive Director for CAPFA, which means Creating a Place for All, a media practitioner, policy analyst, and a social worker by profession. This has been your girl, Catalina Pule. God bless, and bye-bye.